Yeah, so hi all. Thank you for joining. Today is February 12th, and this is a weekly community call of Gateway API Inference Extension. So just a reminder before we start, this is a CNCF project and you are recorded. So please be nice, be kind, and let's get started. So, with that said, let me share my screen and open the meeting notes. One moment. Share. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can
No
see.
comment. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so first we will review action items from previous meetings. So let's see. Perfect, no action items here. Only the nightly benchmark check that Abdullah already updated that it was fixed. So I was talking with Abdullah in a direct message in Slack. I'm not sure if that was the reason, like not 100% sure, but there was some change in BBR. So we've added a dependency in config maps in terms of RBAC, additional controller. In the benchmark, it runs not using the Helm charts, but instead there is a script that deploys EPP, BBR, all the things, and that script was not updated to install RBAC of the config map, and therefore the startup was failing. So that is now fixed. Benchmark is working. I don't see any action item left from previous meeting, unless there is any open question or anything about that point. Okay. Science, that means usually no questions. So I'll move to the next item in the agenda. So we have a bug in the last release. Not sure who already hit that bug, but basically the bug is that the controllers of the two optional CRDs are not working. So there is currently some kind of a configuration, the controller manager configuration that decides whether the controller of the model rewrite should be started and the objective controller. So none of them is working. That means that we cannot work with either of these custom resources. So Kellen, you're here. I do think this fix it does worth a patch release, but I wanted to bring this to this meeting to discuss, see what others think about this point.
Yeah, I mean the freaking CRDs don't work at all. We should
Yeah,
patch that. I don't really want to talk about it because it makes me mad. Yeah, it's
you're muted if you're talking.
am I really?
Now we hear you. Yeah.
No, I we should patch it. We'll get to it. I'll
That,
talk about that on my topic.
okay, this is related. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we have this PR already merged. It is fixed. We'll make a patch release soon. So just for awareness, the only bug fix in this patch release is the controller's startup, unless there is anything that should be fixed immediately. If there is anything like that, please raise your hand, send us a message in Slack, whatever communication channel you want to communicate it, just let us know because we anyway are going to cut a patch release. So if there is an immediate fix that should be included, please let us know. Eric, you're next.
Yeah, hey everyone. Yeah, so for context here, I'm working on getting Istio conformant with the latest version of the Inference extension, and we have yet to implement this last part of the endpoint picker protocol, where the data plane is supposed to like report back to the endpoint picker service, which backend ended up serving the request. And I was curious, I couldn't find any implementation that has implemented this already because I figured that like the semantics of the implementation with Envoy would be pretty consistent across data planes. And I'm wondering if there was something in mind when we first worked on this protocol as far as like how this is supposed to work. I don't have a strong like Envoy development background, so I'm not familiar with like all the APIs, especially around the external processing filter, but I'm not familiar if there's some way, if there's some like callback hook where after uh, the data plane has served the request, we can write back in the response headers to the endpoint picker service, like which backend was served. So if anyone like has the implementation in mind, for Envoy, I'd appreciate like if they could help me directly, or if there's some implementation I could go ahead and look at.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I can share with you what I know. If there are additional, someone who knows additional information, please chime in. So as far as I know, um, first we had this blocker in the conformance test. So since 1.0 or 1.0.1, we didn't have any conformance reports submitted. So we don't know for sure. Having said that, I do know from Abdullah that GKE is conformant with the protocol completely, including that part. So it is working and implemented in GKE, but GKE is not Envoy based. So, and I'm not sure if you can see the code. I have no idea. So as far as I know, there is no Envoy based implementation for this yet. But there are people here that have much more experience than me in Envoy. So maybe um, others can chime in and give more information about this topic.
So, so if it, let's say, so Eric, if you know at the time that you get the response headers back from the other end, if that piece of code knows where the request was sent, okay, I don't know, what part, if it still knows, I mean, it may have forgotten already, right, as it passed through the code. If it still remembers, as I wrote in the Slack, when you asked the question Slack, there is an ext proc call for sending response headers.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And you could send it in there with that, assuming, and presumably you can send as metadata. So either as dynamic as metadata or as a header. You think either one works there.
Oh, okay. Is it either one? Because yeah, that was I got myself a bit confused on that because in the protocol spec it says to pass it in through the metadata. But then I was looking at the endpoint picker code and yeah, I was looking at the response headers for um, that X destination endpoint served tag. So uh, that's interesting if it is meant to be either one, a header or part of the metadata. Like there is a distinction there, right?
Yes. I don't remember what the code was looking for, but I think you can send either one.
Okay.
Mhm. If you look at the protobuf for the response header message, there should be in there there's usually a metadata field in there somewhere.
Okay. Um, hmm.
I don't
Yeah, I
remember.
guess, yeah. Maybe we could definitely take it offline if this is like too much for the meeting. I'm not sure if we have time to get into the nitty gritty, but yeah, I was just kind of Just from my perspective, right? I'm a bit naive here because I haven't done much with Envoy, but I'm wondering, like after uh, in the external processing filter in that gRPC conversation, once the endpoint picker service gets back to the data plane, like is that conversation still active as Envoy goes ahead and continues with the request? And yeah, I guess it would be a matter of kind of understanding um, the API there enough as well to look for, how what sort of callback hook is there at the end to
The short answer is that the session is still there.
okay.
Okay. It's a streaming API. It starts the thing with the requests, and then the EPP code simply just pulls messages, message, message, message. It gets the request headers and the request body. Then eventually it gets the request headers. And I think we also ask for the request body because we look for usage. We collect usage data, so we also look for request body
Mm,
as well. We do not use the trailers.
okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you. I'll keep working on it and let you all know if I have more questions, but I do appreciate the help on this.
Yeah, and maybe just to give more context, so Eric, I know you joined recently.
Yes.
So to give a bit more context about why it's needed. So basically, the endpoint picker protocol, it defines in the request path the option to have more than one endpoint, and then they serve as fallback, right? If the first one in the list fails, Envoy should fall back to the second one, and so forth. So then when they request, so if the endpoint picker specifies more than one endpoint, we don't know for sure which endpoint served the request. And this is currently a limitation today in EPP because we do have the ability to support callbacks in the picker, but practically we don't use it. We always use picker with max number of endpoints to select only one endpoint because we don't know which endpoint will serve the request. So
Yeah.
as soon as this protocol is completed and conformance tests are reported, we can enhance that and make sure that EPP has this fallback. Okay, so this is just for the context.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll definitely report back here once we figure out on our end what that's going to look like in SEO because it might be helpful for other implementations as well that are Envoy
Yeah,
based.
definitely. Yeah, thanks. Okay, Shmuel, you're next. You wanna walk
Yes.
us
Sorry.
through this issue?
No, it's very simple, really. That issue I opened after the discussion on the PR related to starting the EPP without a configuration. I was crashing. So there was a discussion saying, we need to have a default. We should really have a default configuration. So this issue is just open to track it and for discussion. I have put a trial balloon in there in the issue in the first comment. It's up for discussion. I actually have code that implements that already. If that's acceptable. It's just not it's not logging correctly quite at the moment, so it won't be a PR today. It'll be a PR Sunday, hopefully sometime. But okay. And it's just it's a simple profile, a single plugin, single score. It's the approximate prefix cache score using the default parameters for it. Okay. Um, and with a weight of 2, there's only one weight. It really doesn't matter because the weight really doesn't matter here. And obviously we have only one plugin. We have only one profile. Therefore, we're using the um, the simple profile plug this the single profile handler, which is the default one in this kind of case. And since we haven't specified a picker, we're using the max score picker, which again is the default picker if you don't specify one. Um, and that's the idea. Okay. And
Oh,
I only raised it here is to start is to make it, people think about it and start the discussion. That's all. And have
yeah.
the
So
discussion now. I'm happy to have the discussion now, but just to
yeah,
create.
we can open it for a discussion, at least for a short discussion. So I'll add my 2 cents, and I see Kellen has his hand. So a plus one for me, for having this, default configuration in code. Just with one comment, I think I would align that with the default configuration that we have in the home charts, which is today like the prefix, the queue-based scorer, and the KV utilization with the default weights of 3, 2, and 2. Other than that, I think that would be great. Yeah, Kellen, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think that makes total sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's have the
and
default known working config.
yeah, and if we already have a default in code, so we don't need default in the Helm chart, right?
Yeah, that should be true. It is. Yeah, that should be true. We still want an example of how you would inject
Yeah.
the YAML file. But
I agree with Kellen. I would leave it in the Helm chart, even though it's
Okay.
superfluous.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't want to diverge at some point. So if we have like the exact same configuration in two different places,
Yeah.
it makes me feel like a bit concerned that, long term, we might change things in the Helm chart because this is the usual way we deploy things also in LLMD and in here in Inference Gateway. And we might, at some point forget about the default in code config. So maybe we can just keep an example for reference, but we do not guarantee that the example is maintained and, that it would be the best default configuration. Just serves as an example.
So there are example configurations in the documentation, in the configuration
Okay.
documentation. There are examples. I don't know if there's a, let's put it this way. There are example configuration texts. Okay. What I don't know if there is an example that shows how you would do this in a deployment, in other words, referencing it, adding the parameter, etc. All those, the real little details.
Through the Helm chart, you mean?
No, in the documentation, let me get the gist of the conversation. Let me just repeat this. You're saying is number one, the default in the code should be like what's in the Helm chart today. One. Two, it's bad having the same things done in two places. It's always best to have only one place for these things, correct? I understand. But having said that, we need an example so that people who want to make changes will understand what to do.
yeah,
Okay. And the question is in the configuration. I don't remember, to be honest, if in the configuration documentation there is enough detail to understand, to put the parameter in, etc.
Yeah, you know
I
what?
know it says to
I
use it.
get.
I know it says to use it. I just don't know what it says. Use an example.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
You know what? I take it back because in the Helm chart we have like conditionals if latency score prediction is enabled or not. So the Helm chart is like default plugin is way more than these three configurations. So we have here, like Helm flags that enable specific things, like the feature gates, and the predictor. So maybe we can keep in code the simple example as default. Yeah, it's fine probably.
Let's just leave it with. I should leave
What
what I
was
have.
that?
I should leave what as it is in the issue. Is that what you're saying now?
No,
Right.
I'm saying that whatever we have here is not enough. We need to extend the plugins to include the queue-based scorer and the KV utilization scorer.
Okay.
Prefix should have
Okay.
weight of 3, and the others should have weight of 2. And
Okay.
that is identical to the default configuration in LLMD. This is the best static configuration that we've been
I
tuning.
mean, okay, so you want the default. So if I look at the Helm chart, so okay, let me make sure I understand. You're saying is don't touch the Helm chart, leave it alone as it is. It'll be a sophisticated example, but
Yeah.
look through the Helm chart, figure out what are the defaults in the Helm chart, and do that in code.
Yeah, we can say that. Yeah.
Okay, good. No problem. I just want to get straight to it. So I get the story straight. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, Kellen, I think that was accurate, right? So just verifying.
Which part? Sorry.
So Shmuel is asking about having like a configuration, default configuration in code that is identical to the Helm chart, the default values of the Helm chart. So by default in the Helm chart, the predictor is disabled. So by default, that part will not be included in the configuration. And by default, there is nothing behind the feature gate there. So we just need to use, the 322 basic configuration that we are all familiar with. And
Yeah.
as far as I
Um.
know, that's the default configuration of the Helm chart, right?
Yeah, that is. Um.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we? Yeah. That's fine if we just want to do this. I almost wonder if we should just like have an error that doesn't let it ready up, and the error outputs like a link to our docs. So it's like, hey, maybe you need to learn how to apply the config. Maybe that's frustrating, but um, yeah, I want to balance the UX with a single source of truth. So maybe this is fine. I guess we can just run with a default encode.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a matter of like, how did you deploy it? So the documentation is trying to point the user to deploy using Helm, but then, a newcomer or someone who just missed it, they can deploy manually and miss the configuration part. So I'm not sure if that's good or bad to have a default. So haven't picked a side yet. So from one hand, I do want, to simplify where we can. From the other hand, the configuration is like the essence, the heart of the thing, right? We want to
Right.
know which scorers are going to run, which picker is running. So
Yeah.
if the user is completely unaware of that, that's a problem.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how I feel as well. And we don't even really have, I think, a an easily findable YAML. Uh, Luke, that's an interesting point. Um, I actually think that is, that's probably potentially worth doing. Maybe not even a status, but just like an additional metadata field. Maybe status is fine. Um, I think that's a good point. But I think that is an aside. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking maybe we don't put a default encode. But let's just like tackle this in the issue. I kind of want some time to digest. Because I'm not quite
yeah.
sure.
Uh, I
Is
for
that
Okay.
one,
okay?
I for one do not expect such a long discussion on this issue, to be honest. Okay. And
Hmm.
I'm more than happy if they should be left alone for a while to discuss, to think about and use the issue for discussion. That was the idea, to be most honest.
Cool.
This is,
Cool.
Okay, perfect. So as long as we have an issue, we can track it offline. Um, yeah, but that's a good discussion. Yeah. So, Kellen, you're
My
next.
turn. Yeah. I yeah, I've tried to get some people to add integration tests to their PRs when it's either like a new feature or there's some complexity, and it's always pushed back. It's always the next PR. Um, I've looked up those PRs. I've added issues, and those issues don't get followed up on. Um, and then we see things where like the mainline path breaks. So I'm just gonna. I think we have to demand integration tests and prove that this works. When we were pre V1, we moved quickly and we assumed that there was manual testing and we wanted to make the PRs move quicker. Since we are kind of building a product now that we are saying is production grade, I think we have to. I have to be the stickler. I jokingly put the grumpy test goblin, but I will. I will block PRs if they don't have tests. I find I'll do it in a follow up PR unacceptable at this point. So I don't. I hate to be grumpy gills here, but I think that's how we have to be. There's been enough evidence that I think I kind of have to switch to this mode. And so I talked with Abdullah. This is at least how Abdullah and I are going to approach it. I am honestly just assuming that Danian and Nir are on board, but if you guys have differing views, I'd be happy to hear that too.
No, I completely agree. So we've seen it from multiple different people from multiple different organizations that they just need one simple thing, but they're not testing it very carefully. So they're pushing the code, but not tests. Yeah, so I'm familiar with the problem. I agree, totally agree with you.
Cool. That's all I had. And so
Well,
if you're frustrated with me stonewalling, I'm sorry. I still like you guys, but yeah, it's my job to defend the project. So
that's cool. That's really cool. It's cool, Kevin. Don't worry. My question. You want to make sure there are integration tests on new features or end-to-end tests on new features?
I, and that's definitely like a gut check. I want to know that we have confidence that this works is my ultimate goal. So as far as like this isn't, I don't want it to be too prescriptive, but just a gut check. If you're making like a small scoped logic tune, maybe a unit test is fine. If we are making like documentation changes, unfortunately you have to manual test, because I mean we could write end-to-end tests that use our docs, but you would it's just
Oh, that
more
never worked.
fluid to manually test. But then like complicated things, like as we're adding complete new functionalities, we probably need integration and end-to-end tests. I prefer end-to-end tests. We have the DLLM stem now, and we can Danian's laid a good foundation to spin up a kind cluster and use that. End-to-end tests remove kind of any assumption. That's my concern with unit tests and integration is you always have some assumption of scope. End-to-end tests don't really make that assumption. So since we have this nice environment in the kind slash VLM sim, I lean towards end-to-end. But again, it's up to the implementer, and if we need to do things to make our testing structure easier, let's spin up those issues and let's do that. Let's reduce the activation energy required, so we can defend this project well.
Okay. Fair. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Oh, that's a good point. The one that you're raising. Yeah. So no items in the agenda. So is there anyone who wants to raise additional topic? Or just anyone who wants to introduce himself? I'm not sure if I see here new names, new faces. I'll give it like a bit more. Any topic, any issue? Okay, no issues. So you got back a lot of time, almost 26 minutes, 25.
Oh, one
Yeah.
second. I'll be a bad boy and chime in 1 second. So Eric, if you're still with us completely.
Yep.
So if you look inside the GIE, there's a file server.go. And the server.go has all sorts of references to ext proc pb and processing requests, all sorts of things.
Right.
That's the struct. Those are the the protobuf generated structs from Envoy. And if you were to click on one of them and right click, I assume as I believe you're from Microsoft. If I remember correctly, you work at Microsoft.
Uh, Yeah, I'm using Vim though.
Using Vim. Oh, okay. A real old. Okay. I'm the guy with the gray beard. Okay. No problem. It's okay. Anyway, if you actually looked at the struct, okay, VS Code makes it easy to do that, but okay. If you looked at the struct, there's a field in there called metadata context. The
Yes.
comment says dynamic metadata associated with the request. So I believe you can add metadata in there. Okay. And it would
Okay.
come, and then we could read it.
Okay.
Uh, and I believe now in the response headers code, um, let's see if we actually use the metadata. I don't remember if we actually used the metadata or not. I don't see where actually we're using the headers. We're using that data this time, but it must be someplace. I have to go.
Oh, I think you've muted.
Sorry about that. I will Slack you.
Okay, thank you. I do appreciate it.
I'll try to find where we use it and what's going
Yeah,
on.
I guess I didn't see that either, but I do see, I mean, I was looking at I was tracing from like the new test plugin that was added to confirm that this part of the protocol is working. I don't know if I saw anywhere else in the implementation where that's being accessed yet, but
We are using the dynamic metadata of Envoy in subset filtering. So I think that is in director, but this is in the request path. So when sending the request, it is possible to specify subset filter. In the response, I don't think we used it, the
okay.
dynamic metadata. Okay, so we can take it offline, either in DM or in the Slack channel of the project.
I will Slack you, Eric. I have figured out. I know where we extract the dynamic metadata. I see it. Um, Although we're looking for special metadata. Oh, I have to look some more, but it looks like I didn't find it. Oh, I need to look harder. That's the bottom line. Okay, I'll try to do this online, take everyone's time. Sorry, guys.
Okay, so before we go our way, just a reminder, we are hosting a project meeting in Maintainer Summit in KubeCon Europe. And we'll be there, I think, all the maintainers to host the meeting together. So if you are planning to attend KubeCon, please don't forget to register to Maintainer Summit and join us. We would like to discuss, roadmap, features, partnerships, LLMD, K-Gateway, all our partners, and how we are going to collaborate in the next year. So if you're anyway coming to KubeCon, we would be happy to see you also in Maintainer Summit in our project meeting. And with that said, I think we are left with no items in the agenda, and you are going to get back 20 minutes. Yay.
Thanks, y'all. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.